Last week, I made my own mock trades for Patrik Laine. And after hearing your guys' feedback on the mock trades, yeah, I was probably overvaluing him. So I ended up asking you guys, going on the community tab and asking what your Patrik Laine mock trades would look like. And today we're going to be reacting to the most realistic, the craziest, all here in one video. So make sure you watch till the end to see what I thought of your mock trade, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this. So much is coming out this offseason that you won't want to miss. Now, of course, I ended up making my own mock trades for Laine, and a lot of the feedback from that video was that I was a little bit too generous about his value, which honestly is completely fair. I was definitely coming from the perspective of what I thought he would play like once he was with a new team, and kind of basing my value of him on that, which was a mistake. I mean, right now his value is at his lowest, and with all the risks out there, it makes a lot of sense why he have a lower value right now. With the NHLPA assistance program, with the injury history, with the high cap hit, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why a trade might not even happen to begin with. I'm not going to completely overcorrect though and say that Laine is going to be had for free, but you see this tweet, and Elliot Freeman was talking about it on 32 Thoughts, saying that Columbus is willing to retain to get more assets back. So I think for Columbus, especially if there is going to be salary retention, I still think Laine might get more than some people are expecting. In saying that though, we're going to turn the page over to you guys and see what you have in store for Patrik Laine mock trades. I'm pretty excited for this. First things first, we got Alex Calvin coming in here with Laine for Dubois, straight across. I mean, I mentioned this in the Laine mock trades video. It would be hilarious, but it is not friggin' happening, Alex. Stop it. Now, on paper, I do think these players would be a pretty fascinating swap, but when you talk about the reality and how these players have been recently, you have Pierre-Luc Dubois, who made this whole huge deal about trying to decide where he wanted to go and wanting to go to a place he wanted to play, just to be traded to Ohio in the end. I mean, it would be kind of hilarious, I can't lie. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, unless we see a trade of the draft, it might be too late. Once it's July 1st, I believe his no movement clause will kick in. Boo! Boo, Dubois! We wanted to see you go to Ohio. Boo! Unfortunately, Alex, I gotta give this mock trade a straight F, and the winner would be absolutely nobody, which is the perfect trade. For the next mock trade, we have Mario coming in hot here, saying Patrik Laine and a package to the Rangers in exchange for Jacob Trouba. Now, unfortunately, Mario does not give us any more context on what this deal could look like, but I gotta say, especially with what we've seen historically with Columbus over the past few years, they would love a guy like Trouba on their team, I'm sure. It would create a little bit of a logjam on the right side for Columbus, so maybe Eric Goodbranson is the guy to go back to the Rangers. Who the heck knows? I mean, this deal would be absolutely galaxy-brained anyways. Maybe Ivan Provorov is a part of it instead, but I do feel like Columbus would like a Trouba, especially if we were to somehow see a buyout in the future. I think Columbus would absolutely be one of the first teams in on him. And Laine in New York, I mean, that would be a crazy fit. I don't feel like they need more pure snipers. I feel like they desperately need some speed and some play driving, but still, Laine could be pretty fascinating, especially alongside of Panarin, and those two could be real good. Because we don't really know the package, I'm just going to give Mario a straight C for this trade offer, and I'm going to say the winner who's whoever trades away Jacob Trouba, so congrats, New York. Now we go for the Rangers to the Devils side of things, and here we got Luke suggesting a trade with the Devils here, one of the teams that I had in the Patrik Laine mock trades video, and that was one that also people were disgruntled with the overpayment, and this could be interesting here, with the Devils getting Laine 40 to 50% retained. In exchange, the Jackets will get Alexander Holtz, Nolan Foote, Akira Schmid, and a 2025 second rounder. Now there's probably going to be people saying that this is still too much for Laine, but honestly, considering the 50% retention, if that brings him down to, what would it be, like 4.35, that to me is a pretty good cap hit for Laine, even with the risks involved, and that's something where you don't really have too much cap hit really added on, and to me, you don't give up too much. I mean, with how the Devils have played Holtz, they really don't have much of a future in him. Foote, I think, could maybe be a fourth liner of the future, and Schmid could maybe be a solid fringe guy, but really, that's it. And then you have that second round pick on top of it. If Laine is healthy, if he's good to go, to me, especially with how they've treated Holtz in the past, to me, it would be a steal for New Jersey. But even though there's a couple assets here I would like for Columbus, still, with the 50% retention, I think New Jersey has the most potential to get the most out of this trade, especially if Laine is able to bounce back and get back into form with the centers that New Jersey has. Him with Jack Hughes could be special. But I'm going to give this mock trade a B+. I think both teams could come out here as winners as well, but I think most likely New Jersey would get the edge. We keep going, and little Timmy coming out with a Canucks trade offer for Laine, saying Laine and a third round pick for Philip Roenick. Now, when you think about it, it's not all that dissimilar to the Marty Necas deal I proposed in that mock trades video, saying that Laine could be a part of this big package to get a big player for Columbus, and this would kind of be the same type of situation. In Roenick's case, just like Natchez, as we talked about a lot before, they're both RFAs, and for Columbus, it could be a pretty interesting ad. I do think that they would definitely trade AD in this deal, to me, especially with how much of a logjam Columbus still has on that right side. To me, one of those guys would absolutely be gone. Boquist, most likely. But in a deal where it's Laine and Boquist, maybe a third round pick or something for Filip Hronek, that to me isn't all too far off. It might depend on the salary retention there, and Vancouver I think would definitely be one of the teams needing some salary retention. But if there is, I could see this trade actually working out for both sides here. I'm still not the biggest fan of Filip Hronek, but he could be really interesting on Columbus's defense and give them a needed boost there, especially over Boquist. So you know what, little Timmy, I'm going to give the trade offer a B+. I think there still have to be more on top of this deal for Vancouver to accept it. So I would say technically that Columbus wins this deal. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, we go on to Shane's comment, and we have a couple of really interesting ones here involving Utah. And he says Utah will get Laine, Alexander Texier, and a third round pick. In exchange for Columbus, they would end up getting Lawson Crouse. Now, this trade does solve a lot of the issues that I personally have with a Laine to Utah trade proposal, and that's the stacked forward group that Utah will already have. Especially on the wings, they have so many options that, to me, trading one of the wings in Utah would be necessary for this deal to happen. And Lawson Crouse would be one heck of an addition for Columbus. His age, his physicality, his offensive ceiling, he's somebody that has been a really great middle sixer for Arizona for a while now, and he's exactly the type of force that I think Columbus could really use more of. The thing is, though, I think this would definitely require a lot more from Columbus's end. I think Laine and Texier, sure, you can include those both, but a third round pick, honestly, it might have to include a first rounder or at least a pile of picks coming back. I think Crouse is somebody that Utah, as they should, heavily values. I mean, he's somebody that is pretty a rare archetype in the NHL, especially with the level that he's at and continuing to be at. And I think for Columbus, it would cost a really pretty penny for that to happen. It would have to be retained salary on Laine's end. I think it would have to be upgrade in picks and even more picks on top of that for them to consider it. But man, I do think Crouse will be fascinatingly good in Columbus. He's somebody that with the center group coming up with Fantilli especially, those two could be a pretty awesome duo, and I would love to see it happen. I mean, you could have a top two left wing core coming up of Gaudreau and Crouse. You could switch them whenever you want to, and Crouse could just be this reliable player that honestly Columbus needs more of. They need more consistency, more reliability, and going from Laine to Crouse is a definite switch up. I will say though, Shane, you're onto something. Even though I do think there would have to be more on top of it, I will give this idea a straight B, and I'm going to say the winner out of this mock trade would definitely be Columbus, but I will say that once you add more on top of it, I think it could be a win-win. Now we keep going with Utah offers, and this next one from Zella is pretty interesting. To Columbus would be Barry Hayden and a 2025 second. In exchange, Utah would end up getting Patrik Laine. No, I think this all depends on how Columbus sees Hayden and really the rest of the league sees Hayden. He's somebody that I still think can become a solid third line centerman and a really good one at that. I mean, this last season was just a disastrous year for him, but I think in the right situation with a little bit of a change of scenery, he could do some better things. But I do feel like especially this would be a lower stakes offer for Columbus, but I think it would all depend on if this deal has retained salary. If it doesn't, and that's really important for Columbus, then maybe this is a deal they end up accepting. But it does seem like they're a little bit more willing to retain salary, which honestly I think would fetch them a better offer than this. And I do think there would have to be a winger involved in some capacity going back to Columbus, because again, I think that logjam is just too intense, but I will give this trade offer a straight B as well. I do think though, honestly, Utah does win this. Even with all the salary there, I still think Utah's a team that can afford to stomach it. I mean, they have some of the most cap space in the entire league, and Laine could be so good there. I mean, the center situation they have coming up, him with Cooley, the playmaker sniper duo, I would love to see that. Now, coming from Briggs, they're proposing a return to Winnipeg for Patrik Laine, saying Laine to 50% retained to the Jets and next year's second round pick. In exchange, the Jackets would get Ehlers and a fourth round pick. Love the vids, keep it the work. Thank you so much, King. Now, honestly, this would be hilarious to see Laine return to Winnipeg. I think it does depend on maybe Laine's willingness to, but considering Winnipeg still has pretty much the same exact management as the team that traded him, I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff is still there chugging along for pretty much eternity. I think that maybe is the biggest reason why this doesn't happen, but Ehlers to Columbus would be a really fascinating fit. Even though he's not as physically refined as maybe they wouldn't want on that top six, he brings so much play pushing, so much speed, so much intensity on the puck, and I think he's exactly the type of skill that Columbus always needs more of. But even though I want to see Ehlers in Columbus, I just don't see Laine ending up back in Winnipeg, though it would be hilarious to see it. Now this next one gets wacky, and it's another Vancouver trade offer here. Coming from Benjamin, he says the Blue Jackets get Ilya Mikheyev, Tristan Nielsen, a 2025 second and a 2026 fifth. In exchange, the Canucks will get Patrik Laine, 25% retained, and Adam Boquist. Now, Benjamin, we always love to see a random AHLer included in a trade. I mean, he's somebody that would be cool in the Blue Jacket system. But Ilya Mikheyev is really the interesting one here because we've heard Vancouver trying to shop him out there. Most likely, though, if he's on a different team, it would be a buyout. So maybe Columbus is able to swoop in here, get Mikheyev, and that could be a little bit of seasoning to entice Vancouver to bring in Laine, another player as well. Kind of like we talked about in that New Jersey trade offer where New Jersey would be getting rid of the Andre Palat deal, but in Mikheyev's case, I think it's a much bigger anchor for Vancouver. But I do think this would be a situation where even though there would likely still be salary retained because I think Vancouver still needs it, even with the Mikheyev contract off the books, to me this would really rise the value, especially considering Boquist going the other end. Honestly, I could see Vancouver giving up even more in a deal, maybe a prospect on top of things. To me, that would really rise the value for Columbus. If they're willing to take on Mikheyev, that changes things. But honestly, I really like where you're coming from for this. I mean, Mikheyev would be somebody that I think Columbus would be hesitant to take on and would get some more value back. So maybe that's something they're willing to do in the end. We'll have to wait and see. But Benjamin, I think this could be a pretty interesting deal if it's worked upon a little bit more. I'm going to give it an A-. And right now, I would say Vancouver gets the best of this deal, but I think it could be worked to get a win-win here for both sides. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we got a little bit of a spicy meatball here from Oilers fan 3977, and it's so big that I had to minimize the friggin' window to make this happen. But they say for Anaheim, they will receive Laine and David Jiricek. In exchange, Columbus will get Zegras and a conditional third, goes to a second if Laine scores 30 goals. I mean, it could make sense for both sides and players. Both could use a fresh start, and the Ducks have made it known they're looking for a top D prospect. And wow. Now, I do think this all depends on what Don Waddell now in Columbus is looking for. If he's looking for top-end scoring and high-end skill, then Zegras would be one of the best players available right now. I like the idea of this, though. I mean, Anaheim is a team that I think could really like a Laine and especially a David Jiricek with the physicality that he could bring someday. And maybe they go for a Kane Lindstrom then with their third overall pick or something like that. Maybe Columbus getting a Zegras goes for a Salayev or Levshnov or some other defenseman in that system. Maybe to replace a Jiricek in the end, especially with Jiricek being a little bit disgruntled with his whole deployment, going from the AHL to the NHL. Maybe there's some hard feelings there that won't be able to be healed up, and maybe they just ship him on to Anaheim and make it work. This would be a fascinating deal, though, man. I don't even know what to even think about it. Who wins, who doesn't? I mean, I just want to see it happen. The craziness, the world would explode if this were to happen, and personally, I would love to see it. I do think maybe Anaheim gets the better of this deal, considering I'm still a big fan of Jiricek and what he can bring. And I think in an Anaheim system, he would be so good there. I mean, he is a perfect fit for what they need, what they are probably going to draft in this year's draft. He could be somebody that they could just automatically bring on and have in a top 4 role next year. Who knows? But to me, this could be fascinating. I want to know down below what you guys think on who wins this deal. We keep going, and now we got a Montreal Canadiens 3-team trade. We got a couple of 3-team trades from you guys. Some pretty inventive stuff. And next up, we got G Dardos going with the 3-team trade. Laine and Columbus retaining $2 million to Montreal, plus a second-round pick, Mailloux or Harris, plus a first-round pick in 2024 for 24th place to Carolina for Natchez, plus a second rounder to Columbus. My goodness, I mean, this would be ludicrous. I mean, we'd have Natchez going to Columbus, we'd have Montreal getting Laine perhaps. I mean, all over the place. I do think a 3-team trade, though, involving Natchez, Laine makes a ton of sense here, and I do think Natchez going to Columbus, I mean, it was something that we talked about in the mock trades video, also makes a ton of sense. For Montreal, though, you can make the case that it might be a little bit too much for them right now, considering a Mailloux is somebody they probably still very, very heavily value, a second-round pick as well, and that 24th overall pick. I would love to know for the Habs fans watching this, would you make this deal or not? And then last but not least, for the last mock trade for today's video, we got Slapshot Nation coming in with another another 3-team trade saying for Columbus, they will get Ehlers, Winnipeg third, and a Carolina third. Winnipeg gets Natchez and the Gensel signing rights, and then Carolina gets Laine and Boquist, and I love this. I mean, we've already had the trade offer potentially Laine going to Winnipeg, but I just don't think it makes sense. A 3-team trade, though, involving Winnipeg. I mean, we heard recently how they have interest in Natchez. This could be a really good deal. I would say this trade, though, does have some winners in this. I mean, Columbus gets Ehlers and 2/3 for Laine and Boquist, which I think would be incredible. I mean, that would be a dream scenario for Columbus. I also do think Winnipeg getting Natchez and Gensel signing rights, getting both of those guys for just a 3rd-round pick and Ehlers, to me, that would also be a big win. Honestly, out of everybody, I think Carolina kind of gets jobbed a little bit here. I mean, they get rid of Natchez, and they get rid of a 3rd-round pick to get Laine and Boquist, and Gensel signing rights, by the way, too. And I just don't know if that's going to be completely what they would want. Maybe they would get another pick back or something like that. But I would say in terms of the winners, I think, honestly, Winnipeg gets by the best here, getting Natchez and Gensel. Then it would go Columbus, and then they go Carolina. But I do like the framework of this deal. And honestly, all 3 teams can exchange forwards that all 3 would benefit from. So in terms of the idea, I'm going to give this trade offer a straight A. And honestly, Slapshot Nation, I freaking love to see it. This is an incredible 3-team trade. Thank you so much, buddy. But those are my mock trades for Patrik Laine. And once again, thank you guys so much for submitting every single one of you guys. I wasn't able to get to every trade offer in today's video, but for everyone who did, thank you for taking the time out of your day to submit your mock trades and to potentially be in the video. It means so much. It was so fun reading through all your guys' ideas. You came up with some bangers here. But of course, I would love to have you guys in the comments putting in your own thoughts on your mock trades, on everybody else's mock trades. We'll keep the discussion going in the community. And of course, everybody that did submit, thank you once again. If you guys did enjoy, of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Comment down below your thoughts on all these mock trades and what you guys thought about it. And of course, share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. And click on this card for all the trade content in one playlist. So much good stuff there. And I will see you in the next one. I hope you have a brilliant hockey day, and goodbye.